Hey, what's up, guys? Good to be with you. Back with another video. So I was thinking the topic for today's video would be Donald Trump versus the mainstream media. That topic pretty much makes sense any day that you would want to talk about it. And I've just been watching cable news for the last couple hours. I always enjoy hate watching cable news, but it's really not as much fun as it used to be. It's gotten boring, and in this Trump moment where things are actually, at least from my perspective, more interesting than they've been. I just can't believe that the mainstream media still falls for every single trap that Donald Trump lays. And I really do think that they do him a tremendous service, even when they're trying to ruin him, which seems to be their attempt. So all day long on the mainstream media, they're trashing Donald Trump, and there's no topic off limits. I mean, they can't, it's the dumbest things imaginable. They'll spend a tremendous amount of time going after him for, whether it's like Stormy Daniels or, Melania Trump's absence after her surgery. And none of these things really seem to stick. They just throw one thing after another after another. And Trump is really happy to have this fight. And this is the one fight that he can consistently win. It's why when Donald Trump was running for president, that probably his most consistent theme, even more so than building a wall or cracking down on immigration, was that the media are the most dishonest people on the face of the planet. And he rode this into the White House. You'd think maybe they would have learned from this. But Donald Trump, I mean, look, Donald Trump's approval ratings aren't great. They have been going up, but they're not great. But they're doing better than the approval ratings of the mainstream media. Trust in the mainstream media is at an all-time low. Also, trust in government in general is at an all-time low or close to an all-time low. These are probably the only two things going on that I see as positives in today's political environment. But at least people don't trust the government, and they don't trust the mainstream media, which I think is good. There's different polls on this stuff, but basically back in the 50s, when Eisenhower was president, they said 3/4 of the American people trusted their government to do the right thing, either most of the time or almost all of the time. And today that number's down. I think the people who trust the government to do the right thing almost all of the time clocks in at like 3%. And my only question is who the fuck those 3% are. I mean, the 3% must include like members of Congress and lobbyists or something like that, because I don't know who could possibly look at the government and actually believe that they're doing the right thing. And this is a big part of why Trump was elected to begin with. This is kind of the whole thing. I mean, according to, left-wing Trump derangement syndrome patients and the mainstream media, they'd like to say that, the reason Donald Trump won is because he dog-whistled racism or something like that. And look, I'm sure there's a lot of racists in the country who voted for Donald Trump, but that's not really the whole story. There's a much, much bigger story out there. And everybody wants to ignore that. So, like Barack Obama, he won like the Black Panther vote. He won, like Jeremiah Wright and his following. But that's not the story. That's not the reason he was president, just because he got a few. There's just not enough of them. That's not enough to get you into the White House. Oh, the story of Barack Obama could much more accurately be described as a backlash to George W. Bush and all of the policies that people hated about the Bush administration, and the fact that Barack Obama represented a change. That's kind of what people voted for, right? I don't know if you remember. I know this was like 1,000 years ago, but in 2008, Barack Obama used that word change quite a bit. That was the central theme of his campaign, was change. And people, were willing to look past the fact that he didn't have that much political experience. I think that was actually a plus for him. He ran against Hillary Clinton and then John McCain, the most experienced politicians imaginable. And people were like, no, we'll take the outsider. We like this Barack Hussein Obama guy. And, it didn't seem to matter that he had a strange name, or that he was the first black presidential candidate to get that far and ultimately become president. When Obama came in, he had record high approval ratings. People were kind of like, they were like, oh, he'll be the agent of change, then we'll get behind him. And after Obama got in, you had the Tea Party movement, you had the Occupy Wall Street movement. You look at Ron Paul's campaigns of 2008, 2012, and then into 2016, you look at Bernie Sanders' success, and Bernie Sanders may have won the whole thing if he hadn't been screwed over at every turn by the DNC. And you had, of course, the Trump moment, and Trump, ended up winning. And I think the lesson you could draw from all that is that Americans are in a pretty anti-establishment mood. And this is not something that just started with Donald Trump. It's been going back a while now. And I think when you look at that, when you look at the polls of trust in the government, this is what it's all about. Donald Trump was able to paint himself as the most anti-establishment, anti-media candidate out there, and people loved that shit. And he didn't just win because he ginned up racists, He was able to get lots of Bernie Sanders supporters to come over and support him. There were tons of counties that went for Obama that ended up going for Donald Trump. It's not really a comfortable narrative for most people in the mainstream media, but this was a big part of how Donald Trump won. And the mainstream media, who was just completely, they were basically Obama advocates for 8 years under Barack Obama. Now they want to switch things around and be adversarial to Donald Trump at every step. And the problem is that they've cut off their own legs from underneath them. So now when they trash Trump, 24 hours a day, people just look at it and it proves Trump's point. It proves him right. Yep, see, this is the media. They're completely out to get him. And they are completely out to get him. So, it's really amazing to watch. If you listen to them, the way they go at Sarah Huckabee Sanders, it's like, oh my God, they're lying. This is the big deal, that the Trump administration is lying, and the media is just so outraged about this. And it's like, yeah, Trump does lie. Trump lies a lot. He invents facts. He'll make up ridiculous things that are unnecessary to lie about, like, whatever, having the biggest crowds at his inauguration or something. These, demonstrably false statements. But, it's like, I think the American people have basically called this whole thing a wash. They're like, yeah, Trump lies, but you know what? They all lie. And they're right. They all do lie. I mean, if you look at the last two presidents, their central achievements, right? So George W. Bush's central, his biggest, his biggest achievement, if you want to call it that, the thing that he'll be remembered for is the Iraq War. That was his he went all in on the Iraq War, and he said Saddam had weapons of mass destruction, and he was working with Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda on 9/11. They were both big fat lies, okay? Huge lies. Everybody knows that now. There's not even a question about this. And Barack Obama's biggest achievement was Obamacare, and he sold it by lying through his teeth. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. It's nonsense. It's an absolute lie. And people got burned real hard about that. So you compare that lie to Trump talking about his crowd sizes, and it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. And it's amazing for all the heat that they give Sarah Huckabee Sanders for the lies that she's told, or Sean Spicer for the lies that he's told. It's like, yeah, that's the job. They're the press secretary. The job is being the president's liar to the media. That's all any of them do. There's this great clip. I'll put it in the description of this video when I post the video later on. But it's a clip on MSNBC where Barack Obama's press secretary, Robert Gibbs, admits that he was under direct orders to lie about the drone program, to pretend it didn't even exist. For I think the first 2 years of the Barack Obama administration. And this was the drone program. This is just bombing countries that we haven't declared war against, killing civilians, what would be considered, if any other country did it, to be a war crime. And he was just straight up told them that, yeah, I was lying. I was lying through my teeth about that the entire time. And everybody on MSNBC, they were laughing about it. They thought it was hilarious. They were like, oh man, that's a tough job. I wouldn't want to have that job. This was on Chris Hayes' show, who's supposed to be like a progressive. You would think maybe would have a problem with the drone program. But no, it was fine when it was Obama. But now all of a sudden they're outraged about the lies with Donald Trump. Anyway, it's entertaining to watch them try to, put this whole thing together and try to, keep hold of any ounce of credibility that they have left. But, the irony of all of it is that they're Trump's best asset. I mean, if you look at the trust in the mainstream media, it's very, very low. If you look at the trust amongst Donald Trump's base, it's like as low as it could be. You can't imagine how bad their approval ratings are. And so, look, this is the thing, and I've said this before, but my advice to all the people who hate Donald Trump and to the mainstream media who falls into that category is like, watch what you're doing, because you're about to get this guy reelected. That blue wave that everybody's been talking about, I don't think it's coming in the midterms. I don't think it's coming at all. If I had to guess, the Democrats will have some small gains, but nothing substantial. And I think there's a real chance they're going to get this guy reelected. And I don't know. Maybe I think the only way you could maintain any credibility is to go, yeah, look, it is an outrage that this guy is lying, and we really should have been harder on Obama when he was doing the exact same thing. Anyway, don't hold your breath for that, but these guys are on the verge of getting Donald Trump reelected in 2020. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. All right, that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. with a new video. I'm doing these videos every weekday, and if you like them, go check out my podcast, Part of the Problem, on the Gas Digital Network. All right, later.